the Rocco tulikuwa tunaongea kiwazee. You understand what I'm saying, brother? Fantastic. So now there, I saw, now the boss had spoken, okay? And then I saw, obviously the thing was on mute. Okay? Then I saw Riggy G, dressed in his finest, summer attire. So it's somewhere in Costa Rica. I'm like, and then as guys were like, oh man, what is this man saying? Former district officer 1. Alisema nini? Now, listen to this first.
There is an organization paid for by the public to brief the president and the government about the feeling of the Kenyan people. Officers of the National Intelligence Service, officers of the National Police Service have told me in confidence they did not get advance intelligence briefs about the magnitude of the protest in Eldoret, in Kericho, in Nairobi, in Githurai, in Embu, in Nyeri. Since independence, there has been protests around Parliament. Never have protesters invaded and gotten inside Parliament. Senior officers have told me in confidence they did not have an advance intelligence brief about the intensity of the protests so that they prepare in advance. The National Intelligence Service slept on the job. And the problem is simple. The Director General of the National Intelligence Service, Nuruddin Haji, was a junior officer in the National Intelligence Service before he was appointed as DPP. Had Nuruddin Haji done his job, we will not be where we are today. He has no capacity. He is out of the country most of the time on business trips. The country is on his own. My boss, President Miriam, is exposed that he has to back down and admit that he has hurt the people of Kenya. Yet this matter has been in public domain for the last 2 months. I want to say that Nuruddin Haji must take responsibility for the deaths that occurred. He must take responsibility for the mayhem. He must take responsibility for failing President William Ruto. He must take responsibility for failing the government of the Republic of Kenya. He must take responsibility for failing the Kenyan.
Guns blazing, shooting from the hip. Nuruddin Haji is out of the country most of the time on business purposes. He was a junior officer.
At the intelligence service.
He makes him sound like a KYM.
Before he was...
went to DPP.
Yes.
And then obviously the rest, as you know, is history. DPP, then next thing you know, Sasa now he's the boss.
Yes. And then, of course, he made that other statement of due to his inferiority complex, he fired all the seniors.
There we go. Okay? So we're saying, not only, we have alluded to several things. That Haji is daft, incompetent, and he has got better things to do than his docket. Okay?
Which is, that statement alone is very interesting. Now, considering Kenya 1 or Kenya 5 has also been very, very mobile.
Thank you. Exactly. So we're talking about in terms of travel. Now, let's break this down for a second, all right? For the uninitiated, okay? We're talking about the days of the Kivuvanis, Williams of this world, right? The most famous one that you may know is James Kanyotu. Are we together?
Yes.
Then known as a special branch. Okay? Now I just call it Dam Kiambu Road. Okay? You see it there. Are we together?
Yes.
Yeah? Back in the day, we'll talk about it early on. They were in Nyati House. All right? And you avoided Nyati House.
Yes.
But like DP Gachagua is saying, I mean, surely, but the role of the DCI and, and NIS. Because we know of a few cats who work for the NIS.
Yeah.
Okay? But the one thing, and this one, it gets me. Obviously, there's that guy who's sitting there in the pub next to you. There's the shoe shine guy. Who knows? He was even the guy who's probably serving you fries in KFC.
Yeah.
Okay? Their job is to basically, and as Gachagua says, come on, kwa ground watu wanafanya na wanasema
nini.
And let's be clear. And we know that usually there's a daily brief, we are told.
Yes.
Fast first thing in the morning. And then we see what's what. But look, I mean, surely, and as we were talking about this earlier on, you didn't need to be qua ground. You could have been in a hot air balloon over the plains of the Mara, okay? And where all you're seeing is flora and fauna. But surely you knew what was going on in Kenyan's minds.
You could literally be at the top of Everest. As long as you had internet access, you are supposed to be able to know what's going on. This is one thing that I don't get. That the NPS are blaming the NIS. I'm quoting Rikiji here, the DP, that NPS, that is the National Police Service, is saying that they didn't get enough intelligence from NIS to know the extent that these demonstrations would be. So you will respond as per the intelligence. Are you not supposed to just be ready? What? So
yeah, but you see, but ready how?
But let me ask. So are you telling me that NPS were on holiday and this caught them unawares? Because this was announced.
Yes.
There was a schedule. In fact, if you go on X as old as 4 weeks ago, there was a schedule. On this date, we will demonstrate. On this date, we will go here. On this date, we will occupy parliament. Everything was listed down. It's not something that was of the moment, a spur of the moment. So when you're throwing NIS under the bus, what has everybody else been doing? And fine, let's assume they didn't get the intelligence. Once they saw the first one, why didn't they respond? Because the first one
sorry, what is first one? First one what?
The first demonstration, you see.
Oh, you mean last week?
Yeah. Okay. No, not the last one, the previous one. There was the first one, and then after a week, they went to the parliament. So after the very first one, you remember?
But now you see you're confusing me. Let's be clear. Okay. So parliament is the day before yesterday. That's this week.
Yes, that's this week.
So that first demonstration was last week.
Yes. And then there was the Wednesday one. Devolved. No. After Tuesday, there was Wednesday devolved. Then the Thursday, there was a little bit trial.
Anyway, Then
So once you had seen the first one, why couldn't you then click up and say, okay, this might actually be something? But you see, it's the arrogance that this government has actually had from the get-go. That they're like, hao ni watoto wa X na nini na TikTok, hakuna kinyo watafanya.
Okay, but answer the question then.
Yes.
Was there a failing on, does Rigiji have a point?
I don't think he has a point.
So Kina Nurdin, they did their job. DCI, there's no one who's liable or culpable. There was no failing oversight here by anyone.
There was a huge failure in everybody. In every
no. You can't give a blanket condemnation.
No.
Here, it's like that one of when, for example, they used to monitor Jacob. Okay. And this is what it's going to do. This is what's going to happen. This is how it's going to roll. This is who it's going to be with. These are the routes that they're using, and this is exactly what's going to happen. That's you doing your job.
Yes.
Here, somebody's like, no, I don't think they're actually going to try and breach parliament.
Yes.
That means you weren't listening to on the ground proper. Something was wrong.
Something was wrong.
And it's NIS who's supposed to give and get that information.
Okay, so if that is the case, then we need to audit this whole thing properly after this. And I don't think it's responsible of him to come out just immediately after the president conceding and then throwing NIS under the bus.
So that's where we're at.
Yes.
So he is wrong.
Yes.
He should have whispered in his ear or called him on his mobile.
And told him, Baba, what happened?
So what do you think Rigiji is trying to achieve here?
He's settling all scores, as far as I'm concerned. With Hajj.
All right, so just, hang on that particular thought. And now it's over to you. 0719012600. Is Gachagua settling all scores with Haji? Should he indeed have, sent him a memo, confident, WhatsApp message? Nigga boss.
Hey, Baba, umetuangusha.
Is Haji wrong? Is Rigiji wrong? Who's wrong here? Hello, SpiceFM, good evening. To whom are we speaking with?
Hello.
Hi.
So my name is Peter.
Okay, Peter, can we get you off speaker, my brother?
Yes, that's better.
Slightly better. Okay.
Yeah.
So, Peter, What is going on here, my brother?
So there's two different ways to look at this. And the first thing is to take a step back. We say that when in doubt, zoom out. So then try and see what exactly is going on. Of course, the first thing to remember is that the deputy president broke with protocol by speaking after his boss.
Yes.
So there must have been a reason he did that. So first, maybe to get our attention. Secondly, to sort of orchestrate the situation that he the bombshell that he tossed out there.
Yes.
It was expected that what happened today would happen, that leaders from the northeastern province would come out fighting to try and protect one of their own.
Yes.
Of course, saying all manner of things. But the things he pointed out are actually quite easy to verify,
yes.
right?
Yes.
Because he made specific points. He talked about personnel, he talked about directors and assistant directors who've been moved and that sort of thing.
Yes.
Easy things for the president to pick up a phone and ask, is this the case? Is it not the case? Then remember, and this for me is most critical, now many people will assume that Kenya has just one singular, what do we call it, intelligence body. That's not the case.
Yes.
So we have the NIS,
yes,
but also very quietly on the side, we have something called military intelligence.
Indeed.
You'll remember that that's where Major General Ali crossed over from.
Yes, yes.
And now this guy is actually much more active and much more better funded, more serious, the whole shebang.
That you're talking about the military intelligence?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Oh, they're better funded than...
Think about it like this. While you can appoint a Haji out of the blue and make him head of NIS,
yes,
the military intelligence is actually, a meritocracy,
yes,
right?
Yes.
And lots of investment over the years to try and create what we have there today.
Yes.
It's also instructive that you never ever hear of them before. I've just mentioned
that is
them.
True. Yes.
They're working. So we'd have to assume that even as the NIS was dropping the ball on this one, that the military intelligence also dropped the ball on this one.
Yes.
And that then the president was left completely exposed. I would think that's not the case. I will hazard that maybe because what essentially people who are not happy with what has been going on, and that then the system stopped working, so that people were making a point by hanging him out to dry. That while this information was actually out there, people might not be happy working with Haji, maybe because of who he is, what he's done, maybe incompetence, who knows? Maybe because he's never there, never reads his briefs, I don't know. But I would tend to think that the system has been at work on the ground, and this information was collected, it was analyzed, it was packaged, sent up the tree.
Yes.
But at some point did not end up on the right desks. I know the briefcase arrives wherever the president is, whether by diplomatic pouch, whether by in a virtual sort of way, but the information does get there. Does he read it? I mean, we don't have to expect that he does.
Yes.
But also remember that the president has been in an echo chamber for the last maybe 3-4 months, listening to the likes of Ishungwa, listening to the likes of the chairman of the finance committee, listening to the likes of the people who have been driving the Mount Kenya campaign debate. Yes. So maybe he hasn't had much time for anything else.
Yes.
And that this echo chamber kept saying the opposite of what the intelligence was saying. That they kept then drilling into his head that this is nothing to worry about. Remember, they had come out and said that these are just kids eating KFC and arriving in Ubers and that sort of thing.
Yes.
But now that they've had to take personal responsibility, because we've seen them being targeted directly, that then makes it radically different.
Indeed.
Now, to come back to our conversation about the deputy president, he is a man who that system has tried to isolate. He is a man who's borne the brunt of what has been happening. He is a man with 40-plus years of experience in administration, intelligence analysis, and what have you. And maybe he hasn't had the access that then would have enabled him saying the things that he has, because we know what has been happening. Essentially, he's been sidelined. So is this Gachagua then saying, I told you so? Maybe it is. Is this Gachagua saying we have to do better? Maybe it is. He made very specific points, and he actually had a call to action. First, he talked about asking the youth to sort of tone down what they wanted to do today. We've seen that actually happen. It's not been as bad as it has been in the recent past. And secondly, he actually has called for the overhaul of that National Intelligence Service on the basis of this failure and on the basis of other things that he has said needs to be done for it to be reconstituted. And that's the word that he used, reconstituted. Now, third, you have to remember that the challenge the president faces now is to move forward in a way that then gains the confidence of all the people involved in this with the youth.
Exactly. Listen, brother, I just want to mark time you because we've got like 30 seconds. Then we basically let us get into the news, all right? And then please just can we get back to you just after the news? Don't forget your point number 3, ne? Thank you, brother. Yeah, sasa umesikia hiyo maneno, Lorc. So what comments do you have? Dial the number
0719012600 or SpiceFM KE on X, Facebook, Instagram, and of course we are live on YouTube at SpiceFM.
All right, so let's get to you after the news.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Oh yeah, SpiceFM.
Spice up your life.
It's now 6 p.m. Get effective relief from strong pain with Panadol Extra. Panadol. Relief starts here.
Good evening. This is the Newswire. I'm Edwin Lisamira. The Azimio coalition has moved to court to challenge the KDF deployment to quell protests across the country. The petition filed under certificate of urgency comes ahead of a ruling on a similar case by the Law Society of Kenya. Through legal counsel Tiende Omolo, the coalition argues that the deployment is unconstitutional as the Gazette notice issued by Defence CS Aden Duale was done without any approval of the National Assembly or Defence Council. They've sued the National Assembly, pointing out that the procedure on approving the deployment of the troops was in contravention of the House standing orders. Mary North MP Geoffrey Ruko says he'll withdraw a proposed law he's sponsored seeking to have the government regulate public demonstrations. The Assembly and Demonstration Bill 2024 spells out the conduct of an assembly or demonstration and online or outlines prohibitions during the event. Ruko had proposed imposing conditions to guarantee public order, safety and protection of freedom of persons. In a post on his X account, Ruko says he's heard the voice of Kenyans and will officially write to the National Assembly Speaker to withdraw the bill. Central Turkana MP Joseph Namwar has apologized to Kenyans for voting in favor of the now withdrawn Finance Bill 2024. Namwar, who's a UDA party member, says the move by President William Ruto to decline to sign the bill into law has paved way for dialogue. He's pleaded with his constituents for their pardon.
Kila Mkenya ameweza kujua ya kwamba rais ni mtu wa kuweza kusikiza maono yao. Na kama kuna njia ambayo tulikosea, sisi ambao tulipiga yes, tunaomba msamaha. Hivyo ndio ningependa kusema, na pia rais, jinsi ambavyo umesema ya kwamba wacha turudi tena kwa maneno ya mazungumzo, pia sisi tukiwa foot soldiers wako, tunaomba msamaha kwa niaba yako pia.
The Kenya School of Law Association has raised concern over the rising number of individuals who've been abducted in the country. Board official Cromwell Odhiambo has urged the government to release their colleague Joshua Okayo.
Joshua was abducted in Rongai in the safety of his home, and we wish to communicate that we want Joshua released. As of yesterday afternoon, we've been through all the police stations in the area, anti-terror police unit at Upper Hill. And at all these doors, we were met and told that he is not here. Furthermore, our sources also revealed to us that Joshua is being moved around along with other people who are abducted from the confines of our homes. Dear Kenyans, at this particular time, this is not something that we want relieved. We have been through this before, and and long gone are the days where one should sleep in fear that these people can come and abduct you from the safety of your homes.
Okayo's brother says they are yet to know his whereabouts, further pleading with those who've abducted him to release him.
As a family, we are also distressed by this information, and we are just calling upon those who are holding him to just release Joshua, because as a family we are in pain. We haven't known his whereabouts up to this moment, and so we kindly just request the people who are holding him to just release him for us to see him back at home. As a family, we also stand with him, and we hope that Okayo Joshua is going to come back safe and sound.
This even comes as the Law Society of Kenya raised the alarm over other abductions even after President Ruto scrapped the Finance Bill 2024. Meanwhile, musician turned activist Kasmuel Makoure, popularly known as Kaskazini, has been found unharmed after reportedly being abducted by police in the wake of the anti-finance bill protests. Kaskazini was reported missing on Tuesday after last being seen within Nairobi CBD. Before his disappearance, Kaskazini had emerged as a strong opponent of the now withdrawn finance bill. That's the Newswire. I'm Edwin Lisamira.
The Spice Drive, spicing up your...
Okay, so listen, right, if you've just joined us, thanks Lisamira there for that news bulletin. If you've just joined us, okay, we are live on YouTube.
Yes, at SpiceFM on YouTube.
All right, and if you want to contribute, you can also dial the number
0719012600. That is 0719012600. SpiceFM KE on X, SpiceFM KE on Facebook and Instagram.
All right, so yesterday, His Excellency the President spoke, and I was out and about. Okay, I was on a walkabout, and then after that, so clearly the screen is on mute. I see DP Gachagua coming to speak. Okay, and this is what he said.
There is an organization paid for by the public to brief the president and the government about the feeling of the Kenyan people. Officers of the National Intelligence Service, officers of the National Police Service have told me in confidence they did not get advance intelligence briefs about the magnitude of the protest in Eldoret, in Kericho, in Nairobi, in Githurai, in Embu, in Nyeri. Since independence, there has been protests around Parliament. Never have protesters invaded and gotten inside Parliament. Senior officers have told me in confidence they did not have an advance intelligence brief about the intensity of the protest so that they prepare in advance. The National Intelligence Service slept on the job. And the problem is simple. The Director General of the National Intelligence Service, Nuruddin Haji, was a junior officer in the National Intelligence Service before he was appointed as DPP. Had Nuruddin Haji done his job, we will not be where we are today. He has no capacity. He is out of the country most of the time on business trips. The country is on his own. My boss, President Miriam, is exposed that he has to back down and admit that he has hurt the people of Kenya. Yet this matter has been in public domain for the last 2 months. I want to say that Nuruddin Haji must take responsibility for the deaths that occurred. He must take responsibility for the mayhem. He must take responsibility for failing President William Ruto. He must take responsibility for failing the government of the Republic of Kenya. He must take responsibility for failing the Kenyan nation.
And shooting from the hip, DP Gachagua was. And like we have said, you know, what was this guy's intent? We had Paul.
Yes.
On the line just before we went into the news. Paul. Peter. Sorry.
Peter Paul, you know.
Peter. Now, Peter, you know, so you were telling us, okay, and you are on, you'd said point 1, 2, 3, because we were, Haji, as you said, let's recap very quickly. Now, does Haji take responsibility for this? But like you said, in terms of intelligence, there is this one that we know, and there's a one that we're not so familiar with, military intelligence, and those are the people who are better funded, have better equipped, and they've got more or less the ear in tune to the ground. But even they did not see this one. So does that mean Haji?
That's not what we said.
What did we say?
So what I said was, and I want us to talk about it and then leave military intelligence out of this, because that was just by the way, because we were saying that had the NIS not caught this, then the military intelligence maybe should have and then shared that intelligence with someone who needed to know, and then we wouldn't be in this, and that it would be very, very difficult to assume that both these organizations had no inklings of what was going on, thus putting us in the position that we are in right now. Now, that being said, you really have to admire I was going to say something. You really have to admire Deputy President Brigadier Gachagua for basically being able to transform from a man backed into a corner with his boss talking down at him, people making snide remarks. He's essentially juniors in government, talking about him in many, many different ways at rallies and that sort of thing, to the position where he's now essentially thrown down the gauntlet. Because remember, the last point I made was that the president seems to have been in a sort of echo chamber that was telling him that this was nothing to be worried about, that the finance bill was all good to go. I even remember people talking about things like maybe people should consider Uganda if they're not happy. Words to that effect. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, others saying that this will pass one way or the other. And the chest thumping and the bravado. Mm-hmm. And then remember, we've also seen on weekends people going out and shelling massive amounts of cash at Harambes, and on social media, them making people sing for it and counting up to 20 million and that sort of thing. They're really in bad taste. And then the president himself coming on air late in the evening, fire and brimstone, talking about the criminals who are out to undermine government and that sort of thing. And the next day, 24 hours later, having changed the tune, looking like he's been forced to eat humble pie and singing an entirely different tune. It literally speaks to the failure in intelligence that the deputy president is talking about. Because there's no way the president would have said what he said on one day and then just turn around and say something totally different had he been in the know. Remember, it's these people's work to be able to find some sort of strategy, to be able to move the country along and keep it on an even balance. Then the hypothesis then becomes the fact that the challenge the president is facing is actually something that's been around for a while. Now, you will remember that in the run-up to the last election, the deputy president then was on the back foot. That Deputy President Ruto then kept finding situations where the people who were in his camp getting either arrested, having court cases fabricated against them, some even disappeared. Remember then that as a campaign, that sort of effort to sort of stifle the campaign, to stifle his efforts to put together a sort of structure, might have carried over into government now that he's president, because of the fact that he was then saddled with people who might not be as competent and as efficient as he might have had the efforts of the government then to hobble him not really worked.
Yes.
So that you would then expect that with this man then has the depth and might of the deep state, people who've been trained for 30, 40 years in foreign affairs, people who've been trained in 30, 40 years in intelligence, 30 years in so many different areas of administration and government. But then look at the people who are his link between that sort of system in government and himself. Rigathi Gachagua is asking, is there a gap in this space? Think of the people who make the president's immediate inner circle, with Nurdin Haji being just one of those people, right? One of his major advisors. What about the other areas in terms of, is it trade, is it climate change, are these people competent? That's a question that's being asked. Because remember, for us, we know that there are no easy answers. Even with the finance bill having been taken back to Parliament for the 2024, we then know that this is going to be difficult. But if we then keep asking the right questions, we then might find a way to move this forward. And those questions are some of what Rigathi Gachagua has been raising. and raising them with specifics so that it's easily verifiable, I might say.
Why did he raise the questions, Riggy G? Why in such a public way? What's the end game in your opinion?
Think about it like this. As a person who works for the Standard Group, and you wanted to go see the CEO, and you would not find him because he's forever out of office, meeting other CEOs in hotels in different places. Assume that he has a really tough guard at the door who will not let you in, that doesn't pick up your phone calls. Assume that even if you did get 2 or 3 minutes with him, then there's always someone around trying to listen in and saying the exact opposite of what you're saying, that there's someone saying, this guy is just trying to build his own profile within the company so that he can one day become CEO, that sort of thing, right? Assume that these are the sorts of infightings that have been going on, and that the visible aspects of this is a fallout you've been seeing in political rallies, and the suggestions that maybe the deputy president today is after his own aggrandizement and trying to become a kingpin in Mount Kenya. That then speaks to the efforts that people have been putting in place to play local politics and thus lose sight of what the president and the deputy president stood for originally. Remember, these young people did not vote for President Ruto to come and pay debt.
Yes.
They did not vote for President Ruto to come in and pay salaries of the public sector.
Yes.
They did not put him in place to appoint heads of parastatals or friends to different organizations. They put him in place to live up to the promise he made to give them a better life.
All right. So
has he done that? I don't know. You tell me.
So Gachagua was talking to his boss.
Gachagua was talking to his boss, and directly, I might say, because he essentially told him, "This is the challenge. Please fix it."
I would be a very pissed off. I would be a very pissed off boss.
Also remember that sometimes as the president, you might not be in a position to do exactly what you want because your hands might be tied by protocol, by the deals you made in order to get to power, that sort of thing, right? That if someone else does the dirty work for you by opening the door and letting the horse out of the barn, it might move things in your direction, and that's essentially his politics.
So he wasn't. He wasn't. Yeah. So he was not talking in anger. Here he was just basically being like, woye, Baba, imagine. Let me tell you.
No. In fact, what has happened now is that President William Ruto is essentially the man who is now in a corner, because in many Kenyans' minds today, they know what what has been presented as the problem, and they know what has been presented as the solution to the immediate challenge that we've seen, which is security.
Right. Yes.
And that if President Ruto does not then act, it makes him look weak.
I see you.
And unless he provides a different solution to that, then essentially it makes him look very bad. Now, the other thing to remember is that going forward, there will be bad blood between Nurdin Haji and the deputy president.
Yes.
So would you then expect them to be able to work together in government? Does one have to leave? So then you ask, do you think Rigathi Gachagua is about to leave government? Do you think President Ruto can kick him out? I think the answer to both those questions is no.
Yeah.
So the honor then, so in this chess game, the next move is then left to the head of NIS.
Falls on his sword.
And that, not necessarily. I think he's made his move. He's moved one pawn forward.
Yes.
And the pawn that he's using is leaders from the northeastern province who've come out in his defense. I think we are yet to see a few more chess moves. And basically, for me, the thing here, and the thing for many Kenyans to focus on and keep reminding our leaders, is that you have to engage with the message of what Rigathi Gachagua talked about, the message that he was sending out to the president and to Kenyans. Forget the man. People have labeled him a villager. They have labeled him many different things.
Yes.
But he completely outfoxes them time and again. So I'd hazard to say that this is a very intelligent individual that we are dealing with, and that many Kenyans should consider themselves lucky to have him in government.
Thank you. Thanks, Peter.
Thank you.
Have a good one. Let's take a final phone call on this matter. Rigathi Gachagua and Nurdin Haji. William Ruto. Good evening.
Good evening.
Please get me off speaker, brother.
Good evening. I hope you're good.
I think.
Hold on. Pause. To whom are we speaking with?
You're talking to Dalmas here.
Okay, Dalmas. Where are you calling us from, brother?
I'm calling you from Nairobi.
Oh, very good, Dalmas. You're saying?
Yeah. I've been following this discussion, and I think it was the kind of speech that we had from the Deputy President yesterday was basically something that we've been seeing, only that he has not been coming out and talking about it. Of course, all those frustrations, we've been seeing stories around Chopper. I mean, the Deputy President struggling to travel here and there, and so many other challenges.
But how would you just Dalmas? Clearly, the reason we know about these things is that because he has been talking about it, brother.
Not really directly. I think the Deputy President in yesterday's speech was actually talking to the President. But bearing in mind that the term is a little bit, it's too early to say you want to create a rift with your boss.
Yes.
But I feel he was actually addressing the President. And the reason as to why I'm saying that is basically because who appoints Nordin Haji, who appointed Nordin Haji to the position he's in.
It's the president.
So when you say that the NIS boss is incompetent, basically you're saying, without really saying, that
you
the
are
appointed
incompetent.
authority
It's also incompetent. Yes.
is incompetent.
Yes.
So I believe the Deputy President is just trying to play politics,
Right.
but playing politics with the office of the NIS boss.
Right.
Basically, I think that is what I believe.
I thank you so much. So, in your guesstimation, he is playing politics. What do you think about that?
I think it's actually very true.
Yeah?
He's playing politics.
He's saying, Ruto, imagine you're incompetent.
Because
you don't know it all, my friend.
Because you appointed him and he's incompetent.
Yes.
And why was this issue not raised before? His subordination or lack thereof of his incompetence, or he was a junior officer and then he moved to DPP and then he has moved to.
No, it was actually raised at the beginning when he was like Nani, when he went back as an AS. They're like, yeah, this guy used to be there.
Yeah.
And then obviously his late father was Yusuf Haji. I think also at one point he was also internal security as well. The guy said, yeah, he was junior, but now you know what? He has been, pre-appointed, and he was DPP. And then when Ruto came in, put him inside. And remember, most of the things that were done under DPP, under duress, some say, in Uhuru's time, he was the one who was DPP.
Yes.
So should Haji go or stay? Done.
I think ultimately there are chances that Haji will go, because if you look at the Deputy President and the presidency and even the process of letting the Deputy President go, is a bit a hectic process. It's a long process.
Indeed.
And especially with the new constitution, I know most of these presidents will say, let me just retain the Deputy President, like what happened between the former President Uhuru Kenyatta, and the
Ruto.
current President, the Deputy President, yes. So I think ultimately Haji might be sacrificed in this situation, not because of any wrongdoing as per se, but basically because it's maybe the easier path. If you compare doing away with the Deputy President and what it means in terms of the dynamics in politics, and when you look at Nordin Haji. But I feel the address the Deputy President gave yesterday is going to even worsen what we've been seeing in media, especially around the relationship between the President and the Deputy President.
Now, we have seen recently a slight change in the way the DP communicates to his boss, right? And also we have seen a change in, some say, in his communication team. Okay. And no one loves, there's nothing like a good argument. Okay? Just to keep things going. Watu wanakosana, wanagombana. Is this better off for us as a society, as far as you're concerned, when, for all intents and purposes, the Deputy President throws all his toys out the pram and Mulika's his boss?
Of course, no.
When Kenyans voted in the president and the deputy president, all of us hoped that we were going to avoid a situation. And even the president mentioned it at some point, that he was never going to treat his deputy like the way he was treated. So when you see such happening only 2 years, or is it even under 2 years after a general election, then it gets us wondering if the new constitution, we still call it new, though it was inaugurated in 2010, overestimated how the presidency was going to work, especially having a president and a deputy president tied together. So basically, I don't think this is a nice thing for the country. It is something that I would really wish was avoided in a way. But ultimately, especially because the president is also looking at 2027 politics. If you look at the allies, at some point the president even mentioned that he had a discussion with the deputy president and was considering having a woman running mate.
Yes.
And of course, me and you know that Gachagua is not a woman. So basically, I think it's not a good thing for us as a country, but we're likely going to see more and more of such, but not directly yet. We might not see the deputy president addressing the president directly, but maybe using such tactics like we saw yesterday, and at the same time trying to pull in the former President Uhuru Kenyatta into the mix like we saw yesterday.
Right. Thank you so much, my brother.
Welcome.
Keep it spice. And there we have it. Mm-hmm. It's not good for the politics, but as far as I'm concerned, I love it for the country.
You love the drama.
I know you've got to love the drama, because it shows you exactly how we operate.
Mm-hmm. But the question then becomes, with the infighting, what are going to be the repercussions for this?
What does that mean? I don't understand.
If the DP apparently is addressing the president in such a manner, and not directly,
but also remember, brother,
and throwing the NIS under the bus, then how happens to the country?
Between 2017 and 2022, those two are not talking.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about Ruto and Uhuru.
Mm-hmm.
We survived, boss. Remember, we survived.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
Did change the price of milk for me. I never had sleepless nights because I'm like, oh no, those two are not talking. What's going to happen tomorrow?
Mm-hmm.
See, because you know what? Play a position, and then when the time cometh, a time must come, then you do your thing.
But this was the unique thing about the two of them. They never involved the NIS into this. They never involved another body into this.
Lock.
Mm-hmm.
Also, be very clear that when people say there were two deep states, please. No,
they alluded.
No.
They alluded. They never mentioned.